Woo!
Let's go.
Dubs in the chat, baby. Come on.
Fever, no! NC's career high, period.
What you're about to hear isn't just another WNBA record. It could end up being remembered as one of the defining moments of this era. Caitlin Clark has officially become the fastest player in league history to reach 200 career three-pointers. And she didn't just sneak across the finish line. She shattered the mark in spectacular fashion, delivering a performance that had fans, analysts, and even longtime basketball observers trying to put into words what they had just witnessed. Before we dive into everything that happened, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We cover the biggest basketball stories, historic performances, and the moments everyone will be talking about long after the final buzzer sounds. History arrived the instant Clark buried her milestone three-pointer. With that shot, she officially became the fastest player in WNBA history to make 200 career three-pointers. Take a second to appreciate what that means. The WNBA has featured some of the greatest shooters the game has ever seen. Legends have spent years building incredible careers, setting records that seemed untouchable. Yet Clark reached this milestone at a pace nobody had managed before. Just when some critics started wondering if the constant pressure was beginning to catch up with her. Just when questions about injuries, physical defenses, and shooting struggles started growing louder.
Caitlin Clark, masterclass, perfection, a 45-point double. A 45-point double-double.
Clark answered in the most dramatic way possible. She reached 200 career three-pointers in only 74 games, breaking the previous record of 81 games held by WNBA legend Katie Smith. That's not just breaking a record, it's rewriting the timeline of league history. As incredible as that accomplishment was, it somehow wasn't even the biggest headline of the night. Clark followed the milestone with one of the greatest individual performances the WNBA has ever seen. She finished with 45 points, 10 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks, and 6 made three-pointers, leading the Indiana Fever to a thrilling 110-107 victory over the Seattle Storm. According to league records, she became the first player in WNBA history to record at least 40 points and 10 assists in the same game, while her 45 points also established a new Indiana Fever franchise record. We're breaking down every part of this incredible night, the historic shooting record, the remarkable stat line, and why reaching 200 career threes as this quickly says something much bigger about where Clark's career is heading. Whether you followed her since Iowa or only started watching recently, it's becoming harder to ignore one simple fact. Caitlin Clark is accelerating the pace at which WNBA history is being made. What's even more impressive is the timing of this breakout performance. Clark entered the game carrying plenty of questions. She had recently returned from a back injury that forced her to miss time, and like many players returning from injury, she was still working to regain her rhythm. Her outside shot hadn't looked like its usual self over the previous few games. She had made just 3 of her previous 19 attempts from beyond the arc, and her season three-point percentage had dipped to roughly 32% entering the matchup against Seattle. For most shooters, a stretch like that can quietly chip away at confidence. One miss turns into several. Every shot feels heavier. Instead of reacting naturally, players begin thinking through every release, but the greatest shooters rarely stay quiet for long. They trust their preparation, keep shooting, and eventually force the game back onto their terms. That's exactly what Clark did. From the opening tip, Indiana played with pace and confidence. Clark wasn't simply looking to score. She constantly pressured Seattle's defense with her movement, vision, and range. Defenders faced impossible choices almost every possession. Stepped too high to challenge her shooting, and she attacked the open lane. Stay back to protect the paint, and she confidently fired from well beyond the arc. Send extra help, and passing lanes immediately opened for her teammates. That's the part of Clark's game that box scores can never fully capture. Her shooting doesn't just add 3 points to the scoreboard, it completely changes the geometry of the floor. Defenses are forced to extend farther than they're comfortable, creating opportunities that simply don't exist against most players. Even when she isn't taking the shot herself, the threat of that? Next deep three shapes every defensive decision. Against Seattle, that pressure built possession after possession. Every made shot increased the tension. Every assist punished overhelping defenders, and every trip down the floor felt like another opportunity for history. By the time the final buzzer sounded, Clark hadn't simply bounced back from a shooting slump. She had delivered one of the greatest performances the league has ever witnessed and reminded everyone why she remains one of the most exciting players in all of basketball.
Caitlin Clark put on a spectacular show. Chef's kiss versus the Seattle Storm. Oh yeah.
Clark finished the night shooting an outstanding 11 of 18 from the field and 6 of 10 from beyond the three-point line. She didn't stop there either. By relentlessly attacking the basket, she forced Seattle's defense into difficult situations and earned 19 free throw attempts, calmly knocking down 17 of them. Those numbers tell a much bigger story than just another great shooting performance. Clark wasn't simply standing behind the arc, waiting for open looks. She was creating offense from every area of the floor, pushing the pace in transition, driving into traffic, drawing contact, making the right pass, and keeping defenders guessing on every possession. The milestone of 200 career three-pointers will naturally dominate the headlines, but this performance reminded everyone that Clark has become far more than an elite shooter. Her ability to impact the game in multiple ways is exactly what makes her so difficult to defend. If opponents take away the three, she'll attack the paint. If they collapse inside, she'll find an open teammate. If they pressure her full court, she'll still find a way to create quality offense. That's what separates great scorers from complete offensive engines. Reaching 200 career three-pointers in just 74 games makes the accomplishment even more remarkable. Katie Smith, one of the greatest scorers and shooters the league has ever seen, previously held the record at 81 games. Breaking any record is impressive, but surpassing one set by a Hall of Fame caliber player carries even greater significance. 7 games may not sound like a huge gap at first, but at this level of basketball, every game matters. Consistently making three-pointers while facing the league's toughest defenders is one of the hardest things to do. What makes Clark's achievement even more impressive is that nothing about it caught opponents by surprise. Every team knows exactly what she's capable of. Every scouting report begins with stopping her shooting range. Defenses routinely pick her up several feet behind the three-point line. They throw physical defenders at her, trap her in pick-and-roll situations, deny passing lanes, and force her to work for every touch. There are no secrets anymore. Everyone knows what's coming, and she still finds ways to make history. That's why this record feels different. Clark isn't piling up numbers because teams underestimate her. She's doing it while entire defensive game plans are designed specifically to slow her down. Every possession demands extra attention, and every shot is contested with intensity, yet she continues producing at an elite level. That's what transforms an impressive statistic into a truly meaningful accomplishment. Still, the biggest moments of the night came after the record had already been secured. Indiana didn't just need a memorable individual performance, they needed a win. Seattle refused to go away, battling back throughout the second half and making life increasingly difficult for the Fever. Despite leading earlier, Indiana suddenly found itself trailing by 8 points midway through the fourth quarter. A historic night was in danger of ending in disappointment. That's when Clark completely took over. She scored 16 points in the final quarter, but perhaps the most overlooked play came on the defensive end. With under a minute remaining and the score tied, Seattle appeared to have a clear path to a fast break layup. Clark sprinted the length of the floor, recovered on defense, and blocked the shot, preventing what could have been one of the game's biggest baskets. It wasn't the flashy deep three that fills highlight reels, but it showed another side of her game: effort, awareness, and determination when the game mattered most. Moments later came the shot everyone will remember. Clark caught the ball on the left wing and buried a clutch three-pointer, giving Indiana a 105-102 lead. The arena erupted, and suddenly, the record-breaking performance had become something even bigger. Seattle still had chances, but Clark calmly stepped to the free throw line in the closing seconds and made 4 pressure-packed free throws to seal the Fever's thrilling 110-107 victory. That closing stretch perfectly captured what made this performance so special: a huge defensive stop, a go-ahead three-pointer, ice-cold free throws under enormous pressure. It wasn't just about scoring, it was about taking control when everything was on the line. Clark had already broken the record, already posted a career high point total, and already made league history. But instead of letting the individual milestones become the story, she finished what mattered most by delivering the win. It's also worth remembering that conversations about popularity sometimes overshadow what's actually happening on the court. Clark entered the WNBA with unprecedented attention, bringing millions of new fans and enormous expectations. Naturally, that has created passionate supporters as well as vocal critics. Some celebrate every achievement as proof that she's changing the league forever, while others point to the many legends who helped build the WNBA long before she arrived. The reality is that both things can be true. Respecting the players who came before Clark only makes accomplishments like this even more meaningful. Sadie Smith's record mattered because of everything she achieved throughout her remarkable career. That's exactly why breaking it matters today. Records aren't meant to diminish the past, they connect generations. One great player sets the standard, another spends years chasing it, and eventually someone comes along who changes what's considered possible. Clark reaching 200 career three-pointers in just 74 games doesn't erase history. It adds another unforgettable chapter to it, and judging by the pace she's setting, it may be only the beginning. Long before Caitlin Clark ever stepped onto a WNBA court, her shooting range had already become one of the defining parts of her game. Fans watched her routinely pull up from several feet behind the three-point line, making shots that most players wouldn't even consider attempting. Those weren't just highlight reel moments, they completely changed the way defenses had to prepare for her. Every opponent knew they couldn't defend Clark the same way they defended anyone else. Traditional defensive spacing simply doesn't work against a player with that kind of range. Defenders who think they're safely positioned can suddenly find themselves giving Clark enough room to launch a deep three. Step up too aggressively and she attacks the open lane. Stay back and she'll confidently fire away. It's a lose-lose situation that forces defenses to stretch farther than they're comfortable, creating opportunities all over the floor. That's why Clark's three-point shooting and her passing ability go hand in hand. Her range creates pressure before she even touches the ball. Defenders begin cheating toward her, help defenders hesitate, and passing lanes suddenly open for teammates. Her shooting doesn't just produce points, it reshapes the entire defense. The record shows she reached 200 career three-pointers faster than anyone in league history, but it can't measure all the assists, layups, and open jumpers that became possible because opponents were already worried about shot number 201. This performance also arrived at a critical point in Clark's young career. Every rookie enters the league with strengths, but eventually the rest of the league adjusts. Coaches study film, identify tendencies, and develop strategies to make life more difficult. They learn where players like to attack, which moves they rely on, and how to force them out of their comfort zones. Then comes the next challenge. The player has to adjust back. Clark has experienced that reality from day one. Opponents have thrown physical defenders at her, trapped her high above the three-point line, pressured her full court, switched defensive matchups, and challenged nearly every possession. At times, it has worked. Like every young star, she's had turnover-filled games, difficult shooting nights, injuries, and moments where defenses seem to have the upper hand. But growth isn't about avoiding those struggles, it's about responding to them. Against Seattle, Clark looked like a player whose game is continuing to expand. The spectacular long-range shooting was there, but so was everything else. She attacked the basket, earned trips to the free throw line, created for teammates, defended with energy, stayed composed under pressure, and completely controlled the closing minutes. That combination may be the most encouraging sign for Indiana, and the most concerning one for future opponents. The elite shooter who entered the league is steadily becoming one of the league's most complete offensive players. After the game, head coach Stephanie White described Clark's stat line as almost unbelievable. Clark herself spoke about visualizing performances like this before they happen. That's an important reminder about confidence. Real confidence isn't believing every shot will go in. It's believing the next shot deserves to be taken even after the previous one missed. Clark easily could have let her recent shooting slump affect her decision-making. Instead, she continued trusting her preparation, and that belief resulted in 6 made three-pointers, including the go-ahead shot that ultimately decided the game. That's the cycle every great shooter must embrace. Shoot, miss, hear the criticism, go back to work, shoot again. Fans usually see only the highlights, but players live through every practice, every missed shot, and every doubt between those moments. The conversation is often framed as Clark proving critics wrong, but the bigger challenge is actually internal. Her toughest competition isn't social media or outside opinions, it's the incredibly high standard she's already established for herself. When a player keeps making history, history starts to feel routine. People stop wondering if she'll break another record and begin asking which one she'll break next. That's an enormous expectation for any player, especially one still early in her professional career. A performance that would be considered spectacular for almost anyone else can somehow feel ordinary by Clark's standards. 20 points, 8 assists, and a victory might barely make headlines because fans have become accustomed to expecting something extraordinary every night. That's the burden that comes with changing expectations across an entire league. Before Clark arrived, reaching 200 career three-pointers in 81 games represented the fastest pace the WNBA had ever seen. Now that benchmark belongs to her at just 74 games. Someday, another great shooter may challenge that number, just as Clark challenged Katie Smith's record. That's how basketball history moves forward. One generation sets the standard, the next raises it, and the game continues evolving. Right now, Caitlin Clark isn't just keeping pace with history, she's speeding it up. Every great record eventually becomes the target for the next generation. Someday, another young player will enter the WNBA knowing exactly what number has to be beaten. She'll look at the record book, see Caitlin Clark's name beside 200 career three-pointers in just 74 games, and understand the challenge waiting for her. That's how legendary players shape the future without ever sharing the court with those who eventually chase their accomplishments. Young athletes watching Clark today aren't simply seeing someone make deep three-pointers. They're watching the definition of shooting range continue to evolve. Coaches who once discouraged shots from several feet behind the arc may now encourage players to develop that skill. Young guards may grow up believing they can be elite scorers and elite playmakers at the same time. Teams may continue building offenses around spacing, quick decisions, ball movement, and fearless shooting because players like Clark have shown just how effective that style can be. Basketball is always evolving, and no single player is responsible for every change. The game has been shaped by countless stars across generations, but Clark has clearly become one of the strongest symbols of where basketball is heading. More space, more creativity, more responsibility placed in the hands of dynamic guards who can score from anywhere while creating opportunities for everyone around them. That's part of what makes her impact so fascinating to watch. Perhaps the most incredible part is how early all of this is happening. This wasn't career game number 200 or even game number 150. It was only game number 74. Yet Clark has already reached 200 career three-pointers, surpassed 600 career assists faster than anyone in league history, recorded the first 40-point 10-assist game the WNBA has ever seen, and set a new Indiana Fever franchise scoring record with 45 points. That's an incredible collection of milestones for a player still at the beginning of her professional journey. Of course, none of these achievements guarantee what comes next. Sports never make promises. Health matters, team chemistry matters, playoff success matters, longevity matters. Every season brings new challenges, and the WNBA remains filled with elite players capable of changing any game on any night. Great careers aren't built in one season, they're built over many years. Still, records tell an important story. They don't predict the future, they document what has already happened, and what Clark has already accomplished is remarkable. She became the fastest player in league history to reach 200 career three-pointers. She reached that milestone during a spectacular 45-point performance. She led Indiana back from a fourth-quarter deficit, created opportunities for teammates, made clutch defensive plays, and delivered when the game mattered most. That's the kind of performance people remember long after the final buzzer. What does this unforgettable night really tell us? It tells us her shooting wasn't simply a college phenomenon that would disappear against professional competition. It tells us WNBA defenses have spent more than 2 seasons studying her tendencies, building game plans specifically to stop her, and she's still rewriting the record books. It shows that difficult stretches don't change her confidence or willingness to take responsibility in the biggest moments. And perhaps most importantly, it shows that the conversation surrounding Caitlin Clark isn't slowing down anytime soon. Supporters will celebrate, critics will continue asking questions, analysts will compare eras, debate rankings, and discuss teammates, coaching, officiating, and expectations. That's part of what happens when a player performs on this level. But while everyone debates, Clark keeps adding new accomplishments to her resume. 200 career three-pointers in 74 games, a new WNBA record, 45 points, 10 assists, an Indiana Fever franchise record, the first 40-point 10-assist game in league history, a clutch three-pointer that helped seal a comeback victory. Those aren't projections or opinions, they're accomplishments recorded in the history books. Before we wrap up, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our breakdowns of the biggest moments in basketball. With the pace Clark is setting, you won't want to miss whatever historic performance comes next. The greatest answer to criticism has never been a press conference or a social media post. It's performance. On this night, Caitlin Clark let the scoreboard, the record book, and the final result speak louder than anything else ever could. Now the question isn't whether she'll make history again. The real question is how quickly the next record will fall. Do you think Caitlin Clark is already the greatest three-point threat in WNBA history, or does she still need several more seasons before earning that title? One thing feels certain, if her current pace is any indication, she's only getting started.